Hi, everybody. Welcome to 2024 and welcome to Watches with Dennis. I am obviously Dennis, and we are going to have some fun. I don't have any planned screen shares. If we need to do some screen shares, we can do some. This is going to be a talking head episode. So, not my favorite thing to do, but I think the topic will be a lot of fun. And that is hey, we're in the new year now. We know Watches and Wonders is coming up in, I believe, early April this year. So, that's usually when we see a lot of the new releases and reveals. More often reveals. They're not always ready to go right when we see that. But I thought it would be fun to finally go ahead and do sort of a prediction episode. So that is the plan here. And that's really all we're going to focus on. So I have not done any pre-recorded videos since the new year started, as predicted. Didn't happen. But I did mention on the end of the last live stream that I was getting a new watch. And so I have it on the wrist, so I have to take it off because I still am wearing it enough to review it. So I end up with a Parmigiani Fluier. See if with this backlight, it's a little extreme. So let me just turn the light off. It's dark out, so sometimes I turn this light on so I'm not overly backlit. But I'll have some 4K close-up stuff when I do the actual watch review. But anyway, so this arrived on Wednesday, and let's see if I can get the focus. And so anyway, probably something that doesn't appeal to very many people because it's a dress watch. Only issue I really ran into, you can't really notice it too well because I thought I did an okay-ish job, but I had to I ordered leather punches. I had to punch a hole. You can see on the back better that I had to punch it twice because it slipped on the alligator. I did it on the top because it looked like the hole was bigger at the top. So I figured they must have punched from the top. But then I think even though I got out my measuring, I got like a little cloth measuring tape, measured the spacing on these as a half centimeter between the holes. And so I think it slipped on the scale, though, so it was a little off. So I ended up having to punch it the second time. But of course, once it's on the wrist, it's fine because you can't really. I mean, it's a strap anyway. It's just money. We can always buy a new one if it was necessary. But I was surprised because it was clearly a regular size strap. Let me get this light back on. But they have less holes than any other strap I've ever owned. I compared it to straps I've ordered off of Amazon. I compared it to the strap that's on my Longa, and it's just like they're the same length. It's just they had 2 fewer holes because I normally go to the second highest hole, and I had put this all the way on, and I could actually spin the watch around my wrist. It took some effort. It wasn't super loose, but a little too loose for my taste. So now it fits much better. Very comfortable. So anyway, I'll do the full review. Normally I wear the watch for a week, so hopefully I'll get it out during the week, but it might have to be next weekend. Just depends on how things go. But we're not going to be talking about things I buy. We're going to be talking about things you guys might want to buy in 2024. So that will be the plan of discussion. I've got more ticker banners. It's going to be very exciting. Because once you activate full banner technology in StreamYard, how can you stop using it? Well, I'm sure normal people could stop using it, but that's what I ended up turning to. So let's go ahead and catch up with the chat, and then we will jump into predictions. I've tried to cover, feel free to throw out any brands as maybe wait till the end and throw out some brands because I just kind of picked a hodgepodge. A lot of them I grabbed that were straight out of Watches and Wonders last year. So and I'm sorry, my lip looks like it's bleeding a little bit. It might be. I burned my lip yesterday, so if you see that redness, I'm not trying out like partial lipstick or anything. It's unfortunately I grabbed something too hot and just went, oh, and I was like, oh, this feels like a second-degree burn. So anyway, just fun times. But good morning, Kevin. Welcome to the live stream. Koji, yes, Happy New Year. Thank you for being a 99-cent club member. As a reminder, it is helpful to the stream if you like the video. There's a like button down there somewhere. There's also links to the Discord if you want to chat about watches. And there is a link to the 99-cent club, which Koji is a member of, as is Tuna. Hello, good morning, Tuna, or good afternoon out in your neck of the woods. And yes, thank you about, yes, it was well used. They don't make this model anymore. This is a Kalpa Tonda. They still make the Tonda line. The Tonda is Tonda PF is a very popular watch And I really like it. Very, very minimalist, but that's not a dress watch. It's an integrated sports watch. It's also a lot more than buying most of the other Parmigiani's used. But it's one I wanted to try on because I hear they wear a little big. Like they wear bigger than, say, what is it, Chopex Antarctiques, which I also like the look of in terms of integrated sports. Good morning, Frank. Welcome to the live stream. Scott, who emailed me, actually. I want to say, don't worry, I won't reveal what you emailed, Scott, but emailed me this morning or last night. I read it this morning. And he's like, yes, brace yourself for a price increase for the night. No, the 99 Cent Club's going to hold true. I'm going to be good. It doesn't have the same ring if it's the dollar. If it was the dollar, I could do kind of like play off of Dollar Shave Club, but there's nothing like watch related that rhymes with shave. Is there? I mean, maybe there's the Dollar Lathe Club. No, that's like a tool. Never mind. Doesn't work. We have to stay with 99 cents. This is how it is. Underhay, welcome to the live stream. Glad you could make it. And no tuna. I don't know. I've lost since starting my new job because I walk to work usually once or twice a week, and it is about a 2-mile one-way walk. I am actually down about 5 to 10 pounds, but that shouldn't affect my wrist much because I didn't have a whole lot of meat on the bone here anyway. But and Neff asked, yeah, what's the new dress watch? I don't have the model number memorized, but this is a Parmigiani Fluier Calpatonda 39 millimeter in white gold. They made them in a variety. I don't know if they made any of this model in steel. I don't think so. So a variety of precious metal options and dial colorations. This one's technically a champagne color dial. I find it's the lightest champagne I have ever seen. I love champagne dials, but I usually like them a lot richer than this. I thought it was white when I saw photos online, but in certain lighting conditions, you can see the champagne, but it's very, very light. So no, Neff, not a micro rotor. It's got the full rotor. I wish it was the micro rotors. I've never owned a micro rotor watch. Feel free to suggest in the comments or the live stream if you've got like model suggestions of micro rotor watches to consider. I'm all ears because it's like I try and get things I've never had before. I usually focus on brands, but complications is one of those things. And obviously a micro rotor isn't a complication per se, but it is a very interesting way to try and achieve thinness. And I don't have any extraordinarily thin watches. So the idea of exploring that could be a lot of fun. And Neff, who also, thank you for being 99 Cent Club member, mentions the Chopard 1860. You know what? That might be coming up in our predictions a little bit. Maybe a little bit of a spoiler. But let's not start with that. We got to start with what people click on these streams for, right? We got to start with the big boys. So we're going to start with Tudor. Rolex will be next. Why are we starting with Tudor? Because not everyone's necessarily watching yet. So you got to stretch it out. You got to play the YouTube game. Okay. So Tudor. I think I'm being overly conservative here as I thought about this. I actually wrote these last night, but I think I might be. Obviously, I could be wrong on all of these. A lot of these are blind guesses. There are only a few where we've heard anything that makes me very, very suspicious that we'll see something. But with Tudor, I'm not anticipating anything major other than there will be more dial color variants on both the Pelagos and the Black Bay. I don't think we're going to see a new watch line. The thing where I'm hedging a little bit now and think I might have been too conservative is they might play with another material in Pelagos. They did do carbon fiber in 2023. Not a lot of people, I think, really clicked with the Red Bull. Actually, I think I liked how it looked better than almost all of you all who have ever tuned into the channel, at least based off the comments I got when I talked about the watch. Most of them were pretty negative. So I'm wondering, Pelagos obviously is mostly known as a titanium line of watches. Maybe they do something with ceramic, though, for example. But I'm not speculating. Obviously that was not my prediction. I'll stand by my ticker tape and say that that it's just going to be dial variants and don't expect a lot out of Tudor this year. I think that they had a little bit of creativity in 2023. Obviously, they tend to push the envelope more than Rolex does, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling like they're going to drop anything major here this year. So case materials would be on the extreme edge again. Again, that would be pretty much in line with what they did this last time around. I don't think we see anything dramatic like another new size variant of the Black Bay or anything, though, like we got this year or last year. I have to get my brain back in the right sense with the 54, with the Black Bay 54. So anyway, so that's my thoughts on Tudor. So let's talk about Rolex. Yeah, we didn't wait very long. Sorry. I got a lot of these together. So So Rolex, I actually do think we will see some big things out of Rolex to the fans of the brand. Big things in terms of really revolutionary stuff, not really. So two elements. One, let's start with the GMT. It's my understanding is the GMT Master 2 is a big anniversary for the GMT Master line. I think it's like the 70th or something. So 70th, 75th. I don't know. I don't care about the anniversaries myself. What I care about is whether or not that means we get to see interesting things. Now, the rumor mill has been grinding away that they're going to discontinue the Pepsi bezel. I didn't mention this in the ticker, but I don't think they discontinue the Pepsi bezel. I think the Pepsi look bezel insert is sticking around. It's too good of a seller to drop. I don't think they're doing it. I do think, in honor of the anniversary, that we get a Coke bezel. Now, Rolex does not like to go vintage. Like, they don't do the Tudor thing. They don't go back and be like, here's our old model brought into the future. But this is just a color. Like, everything else about the watch is going to be modern. It's not going to be an aluminum insert. It will be ceramic. It's going to have, they might roll out a new movement for the anniversary for the GMT. I don't remember when they last did the update on the movement for the GMT Master 2, so I'm not sure if that's warranted. The Coke bezel might only be in a precious metal option, especially if it's to emphasize the anniversary. We've seen them do this before, so it is possible that that's a GMT Master 2 on Jubilee, only available in white gold. So it's going to be a five-figure, it's going to be like over $25,000 retail watch, and that's the only way you can get the Coke bezel, and they only do it for that year. But that's my thinking. I do think there's a very, very strong chance. Again, I haven't heard anything like, it seems no one has real sources inside of Rolex. But I do think it would be worthy of an anniversary celebration to bring back the Coke bezel. But I do think they're going to paywall it. Like, it ain't going to be like a mainline steel one. I think if I have to get even more specific, it's going to be something special. Another thing is, I think they're not done yet with the whole, let's start introducing titanium into more and more model lines. So I was thinking about that. And I was like, I don't think they make the sub in titanium. It looks too much like the Yachtmaster. And I also think that the number of subs that they sell is such that, to me, I still have this feeling that Rolex doesn't want to commit to having to make a whole lot of cases in titanium for whatever reason. So, they started with that deep, the water deep dive watch, which was very, very limited. And then the Yachtmaster, okay, it's a small line, but it's bigger in production count. So then as I was thinking, I was like, you know what? Even though it's only been a couple of years, maybe they bring back the Milgauss and they throw that in titanium. It's a weird metal for Rolex still. I mean, they don't do a lot of titanium. And everyone, I think, has been feeling the Milgauss is going to come back at some point. I don't think when it comes back is particularly relevant to Rolex or anyone else. Again, it's not a super popular model. It is a model that kind of appeals to a lot of people that don't like traditional Rolex, though. Like, it's a sports watch. So if you like the Oyster case, but you want something different with the dial, and we could very well see a dramatically different look to the dial. They've played with the Milgauss has been a watch that it hasn't always looked the way it did when it was discontinued. So I think maybe there as well. So I actually think it could be a really interesting year out of Rolex. And I thought 2023 was decently interesting. I did not expect the Yachtmaster titanium version, which I think is a very nice looking watch. I obviously, like everyone else, I dislike how difficult it was for anyone who wanted one to get it. But I think there's some good potential there. And I do think they're going to do more with GMT Master 2 than they did with like the Explorer 2. No one at Rolex apparently likes the Explorer 2, which is why it was a garbage anniversary where you can barely tell the difference with the watch. I think because there's at least room to play with the bezel colors, I think we'll see something there. So that's my speculation on that. Let me see. There has been some chat comments regarding regarding Rolex. So let's catch up on those. Ken says, another reason for Pepsi discontinue I haven't much mentioned. The 116719 BLRO was released in 2014. And it's coming on 10 years. They tend to do updates at that time. The main reason why I hesitate to go into I've not liked the basis of the speculation on the discontinuation of the Pepsi. That it's been out for a decade in my mind, is a better argument than, well, we're not seeing as many show up on the secondhand market lately. So we're wondering if we're hearing rumors that Rolex is having trouble making the bezel. I was like, they can figure out how to make the bezel. And so, like, if it got hard all of a sudden, that means they changed something that isn't working for them and they can change back. But it's so popular. I don't know. Rolex isn't Patek where they're like, okay, the 5711 is too popular. We got to get rid of it. 10-year wait list is ridiculous. I don't think Rolex cares how long the AD wait list is. It's a popular watch with a popular insert. It's the most popular look to the GMT Master. I would lean more to them changing the watch, but still having a Pepsi. Maybe they change it so the blue and the red are on they flip it, and which side's got red and which side's got blue changes. But I still think that they stay with the Pepsi. But maybe I'm just drawing that line in the sand because everyone else is saying that they got to discontinue it. But I'm like, nah, it's such a big move. It's so popular. I think business wise, it makes sense to keep the Pepsi bezel and just add another bezel. Maybe get rid of the root beer instead. But we will have to see on that. Scott says, Coke GMT, yes, please. I would be an instant buyer on Jubilee. The Pepsi has grown on me quite a bit. I think it is a very attractive bezel insert, but historically it was always the Coke that looked the best to me. My problem with the Cokes is when you look at them online, almost all of the reds are really, really faded into pink because they were aluminum. So, but with ceramic tech, and Rolex ain't going back and using aluminum. I think you could have a really nice, shiny Coke bezel. Wouldn't look like the old ones, obviously, because the ceramic gives such a different effect than aluminum ever did. So it feels and is truly indeed modern, but I think it would be very much appreciated. And if they want to be clever about it, then do what I've been saying and do it for 1 year only. It's an anniversary release. And you really want to make the money, go ahead and say, yeah, we ain't even doing it in steel. You're going to have to buy a precious metal iteration. In fact, I thought about putting this on the ticker. I forgot to, actually. I also think that we get another display case back watch. And I don't think it's in the 1908 line. I think they do another sports watch. And it may very well be the GMT Master 2. Let's take it another step. GMT Master 2, Coke bezel, platinum with display case back. I think it would be reasonable that they'll do that would be my super specific pick, but I do think they do a display case back on a GMT Master 2 of some form, and it'll be precious metal. They're not going to want to start doing the display case backs at this time in the steel for whatever reason. They want that to still be a special thing. So Neff says, I think the Milgauss would just go in the same case as the Air King. Well, I think you're right, Neff, but I still think, and the reason why I mentioned that, and again, the bringing back the Milgauss this early is honestly probably a pretty stupid pick on my part. The reason I went that way, though, is I just think Rolex is not yet ready to commit to putting titanium as an option for case material in any major professional line. They could end up just saying, let's titanium the Air King. That would be an option. I think, I'm not doing the classic line, not OPs and Datejust. I'm thinking they're going to do titanium in what they call the professional line, what we might call the sports line. But okay, so you've got the Deep Sea or whatever it's called. You've got the Yacht Master. The Sub's too popular. The GMT Master 2 is too popular. I'd say the Explorer 2 is not too popular, but the regular Explorer is too popular. So what do you got left? Well, you could bring back Milgauss. You could do Air King. You could Sky Dweller, but to me, it doesn't make sense to do the Sky Dweller in titanium. I guess it doesn't have to make sense. So that's just kind of where that's the weird math. That was the little beep, 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 beep that I was trying to do in my head to try and make up a good, interesting reason. I just think it'd be interesting. But yeah, that was, all these are gambles. I have no basis in fact for any of this stuff. Ken says, the bezel difficulty is BS. It's always been artificially limited. I can also see them discontinuing the meteorite, and for that reason, the stainless steel as well. Okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. The meteorite was not discontinued yet. I actually don't like meteorite dials, so I never really look at them. But I know some people really, really love them. I would agree with you, Ken, though. I do think that it wouldn't be shocking if they go ahead and discontinue the meteorite. Ken also says, I think Milgauss needs some flash, and titanium is too boring for it. It could be, but just like they did with the Yachtmaster, they will use grade 5 titanium, so they can polish it. Maybe if they do a really bright, what if they did I know a lot of people have been talking about, what if they bring Milgauss back with the white dial like in the old days? Let me tell you another stuff, because again, Rolex doesn't really like to look to the past a whole lot. What if they do something really extreme, like a yellow dial? And then offset against that gray, it could be some interesting contrast. And then you just have like a really like, I don't know, a blue lightning second hand or something. I know they can. To me, in the professional line, the Milgauss has always been the only real dial that they've been willing to have fun with. They're willing to have fun with their classic line, day dates, date just, Dippin' Dots, Oyster Perpetual. They're willing to get creative with the classic line, but they've usually stayed really professional looking on the professional line, but except the Milgauss. Milgauss have been fun with. So I think we might see some fun from them in the future. But again, very, very big gamble. I don't think this is a big gamble at all, and that's going into Longines. All right, Swatch Group brand, very, very popular with a lot of collectors. I actually have never owned a Longines, but I like the look of a lot of them, and I think I'm going to like the look of a lot of their 2024 items. They're going to continue to milk the vintage-inspired look. It's working really well for them, but unfortunately, they're all going to be way too thick because when it comes to Longines, all that ends up happening is they stick on modules for their complications. So, which is fine. I mean, to keep things affordable, that's what you're not going to ground up, have all of this stuff built into an integrated movement. I totally understand that. But I don't totally understand how you can have such classically attractive looking watches and then have them over 17 millimeters in thickness. But I don't think Longines solves that during 2024. I think we'll just see some, maybe they'll still more just some time only or time and date vintage and kind of blow that out a little bit more. But they seem to be having some fun doing complications, chronos, GMT complications, things like that. And so I think we're going to see more of that. Again, very, very vintage inspired because it's really working for them. And they've got the pedigree. They've got the back catalog to do it. I mean, Longines was operating for over 100 years before Tudor's name was even registered. So they've got a big back catalog. Granted, a lot of that's going to be pocket watches and not really worth their time. But conceptually, there's a heritage there. So I mean, it's tough for me because I like almost everything on the dial that Longines has been doing in 2023 in particular. They had two releases that I thought were very, very attractive. But then when I see the thickness on them, and they're just not, I don't think they can do it and keep in the price point that they want to stay in. So that's the unfortunate downside to what otherwise I think is a brand that has been doing almost all the right moves. A brand that has not been doing all the right moves is JLC, though. So, okay, Richemont. I didn't put this in the ticker. I do think Richemont holds the line on these price increases at this point. I think they have to. There is, as there always is every year, there's mixed messages on whether or not various economies are going to enter into recession in 2024. I will say from a U.S. perspective, election years are usually not great economic years. However, our economic trend on inflation and stuff stateside has been very strong. It's not down to the 2% level that they want, but it's looking like maybe more like 3 to 4%. And the jobs market has remained strong. But saying all that aside, the watch market has not been strong. The watch market has been exceedingly cooled. And I expect that to continue. And we're seeing that both on new watch sales and on used watch sales. So not diving into a market analysis sort of thing, because that's not the purpose of this live stream. I'm just saying that given what we saw in 2023 and how much fewer product has moved versus 2022, I think Richemont's going to be like, okay, we can't be doing these twice a year price increases anymore. Now, with JLC, I think two things. One, they have continued to turn out extremely attractive reversos. And I bet at Watches and Wonders, we're going to see at least 3 reversos. And yeah, that I'm 3 as in they might just be 3 different dial colors of the same complication or structure. So I'm whatever. But yeah, we'll have at least 3 at Watches and Wonders. I do think, I'm not going to say this is at Watches and Wonders, though ideally it would be. I do think JLC finally updates the Polaris. And by that, I really mean the movement. They did come out with some new dial configurations of the Polaris in 2023. I thought they looked really good, but the architecture behind it, the movement behind it was still antiquated. JLC's Polaris is very long in the tooth. It's never been a top breath or a top tier, however you want to. I think of it as a first breath watch brand. So it's like if someone was to say, I really want to get a luxury steel sports watch, what brand should I buy? And you take a breath and you start saying brands. What brands do people start to say? Usually I would say they would say Rolex would be like the first thing they'd say. Omega might be the second thing they would say, things like that. So when you say dive watches and you take your breath, what do you say out of that first breath? Polaris ain't one of them. That's what I'm saying. It's not one of those. It might not even be one that you say in the second breath. You don't say it with the Seamaster and the Submariner. It's just not there. I'm not even sure it's as high up as the CQ from Glashütte Original at this point, honestly. I don't know anyone I know a lot of people who appreciate the Polaris, but I don't hear anyone talking about Polaris today unless you're talking about an older one that they already got. So I think the problem, though, is JLC, I think, needs the Polaris. I think they do not want to be what they kind of are right now, and that is the Reverso company. All their eggs are in the Reverso basket. They got the master controls, and they've got and within that you got like the cool ultra thins. And I think they're very attractive dress watches, but there are lots of dress watches that are really attractive that are round. So and you can find good deals on them, gray and used, for a reason, because like many dress watches, they tend to take a significant hit, and there are other brands that are competing with them. Whereas what competes with the Reverso? The tank, right? Cartier is really the only significant luxury competition to the Reverso. But sports watches are where the money's at. So I think JLC just needs to I think they want this. I think they really want to have a successful sports watch line. They've just kind of like how Rolex has struggled to have a true dress watch, Cellini and then 1908. I think JLC's kind of got this situation of, okay, they've got a really successful dress watch line, the Reverso. It's a deep line with a very impressive catalog, but they struggle on sports watches. The difference is there's money in sports watches. There ain't as much money in dress watches. So ultimately, I think it's the Polaris basket that they make their play in finally. And I hope I hope my prediction's right, because I really, really look forward to seeing what they might do with that. Going back to Longines for a moment, from Tuna here, saying they are doing interesting stuff for them. Absolutely. I would say they are probably, in 2023, they were probably the most interesting Swatch brand in terms of releases, I think. But your mileage may vary. Neff says JLC needs to redo the Polaris. I agree. I think they will finally agree as well. I think they've been working on it. I think that we're going to be ready to see it here this year. And Tuna notes that most folks just know JLC as the Reverso company. Well, I mean, whenever I think about a watch and I think about a sports watch, I don't even load up JLC. I don't. And anytime I think about getting another JLC, which honestly I don't think about very much because I'm not really into amassing lots of a single brand. All that come to my mind are Reverso. Yeah, I looked at a few master controls dress watch wise, and then I'm like, this look is like, this kind of Calatrava-esque, like lots of brands do this. You got Vacheron Patrimonies. You got the old, though they're readily available, including in steel, not just precious metal. Parmigiani has the 1950s. They have that same look with some lume added. You can go back into APs, not all that far back. What is it? The Audemars line, I think, is kind of that look. So there's just plenty that do that. So why would I turn to JLC for something? I mean, I already got a Reverso. I don't need another JLC. But anyway, just one of those things. So speaking of Parmigiani, in a nice transition. Normally I wouldn't include Parmigiani, but since I picked up a Parmigiani, we'll go ahead. I'll give them a little bit of attention. And in fact, they have been showing up at Watches and Wonders, and they are getting a lot more attention now. So relatively young brand, formed in the 1990s, mostly did dress watches. A lot of stuff kind of golden ratio inspired, all that sort of thing, but with a Swiss take, not a German take to it, versus say Longa 1 and such. However, they kind of struck gold with the Tonda PF. And so they had the Rattrapante, which I think was last year's reveal. And then the year before that, they had the hidden hour hand, which I think Piaget does something like that too. But this one got a lot more attention. The kind of hidden GMT hour hand, the first go with the PF line. And the PF is their integrated sports bracelet line, and they do them in steel. Yes, they should. And they have precious metal versions as well. But that line has done very well for Parmigiani. So I think we see another Tonda PF complication. Maybe it will feel a little more useful than the Rattrapante did. I don't know if it'll be as clever as that in the GMT hand. I just think they're like, okay, we got to milk the integrated sports watch line. Is integrated sports bracelet, is that fad over yet? I don't think it's over. I know we're past the peak of a lot of the hype, but I think there's still a lot of money to be had with the integrated bracelet line. I think that's why you see groups like Tissot continuing to just try and iterate on the PRX, and I think Parmigiani is going to iterate on the Tonda PF because the PF is what makes them money now. It's like they finally found a watch people wanted. Most of their stuff, if you look at a lot of the Parmigiani catalog, it's super weird. A lot of it I find too off-putting, too avant-garde. But the Tonda PF is not avant-garde. It's extremely conservative. And that's probably why I and so many other people like it. It's a nice, clean, integrated steel sports watch. And the going beyond the time are the time date ones, and getting one of the fancy complication ones is what people get really excited about. So that's what I think we see out of Parmigiani. Otherwise, nothing of note out of them. For that matter, I do not have them in the list, but I'll mention Chopek real quickly because I kind of think of them as well with their Antarctique line of integrated sports bracelet watches. Expect some more Drakes of new dial colors, but that's it. Don't expect anything else. Another brand with a very popular integrated sports bracelet, the Streamliner, would be H. Moser, or commonly just referred to as Moser. So in the case of Moser, what I actually think here is not so much Streamliner specifically, but they did finally come out because they shrunk the size of their movement. They have a slightly smaller movement now, and they came out with a Pioneer line watch that's 40 millimeters, but it was only in one color, a great color. I mean, all of Moser's dials look great. But it's like an Arctic blue. Expect to see new dial colorations in the 40 millimeter sizing for Moser. In fact, I didn't put this in the ticker, but I do think we might actually see them discontinue some of their closer to 43 millimeter Pioneers. I think they wear fairly well. They are large. I did get one last year, and it's a big watch, but you don't have to have a 7-inch wrist to wear them. But a lot of people are going to, especially if your wrist is closer to 6 inches in size. I think a lot of people are just like the 40. Even with the lug to lug, they don't feel comfortable. So 40 isn't that much of a reduction, but it's enough that I think they'll bring new people to the table that want a Moser, but just couldn't pull the trigger because they were uncomfortable with the sizing. That being said, as is noted in the ticker, while I expect at least one new dial iteration in 40 millimeter in the Pioneer line, I do think we're going to also see a smaller case sizing using the new movement in something else. The Streamliner, maybe, but it might be something like what do they call it? The Ventura, the more dressy one. I think they're just going to use this and start doing something smaller. If Moser had a reputation for one thing that kind of pissed collectors off, it was that they lean way too big, kind of like Breitling of old. And so I think that this is going to let them get onto more risks that just we're ruling them out outright that Moser makes a great watch and it's always too large. So I do think that will be strong for them. We'll see. Outside of the Streamliner, most of their stuff takes a pretty heavy hit secondhand though. So I don't know if this changes it and these like 40 millimeters hold up, with better value. So more people go after them new. I don't know. I'm skeptical. Moser's brand equity has gone up over time. Like they don't lose as much value as they did 5 years ago, but it's still not like a lot of the big boys. Speaking of big boys, Omega. Okay. So Swatch Group's most precious company, the one they actually care about, the only one they truly love, right? All right. This is one of the few items that is not just me totally speculating. I have heard a lot of people indicate, I don't know if they got inside knowledge or what, but there's a full expectation by many, so I'm going to parrot it here, that there will be a white dialed Speedmaster that will drop in 2024. And I will say will probably drop at Watches and Wonders. So a lot of people apparently are excited about this, which is great if you're into that. I don't talk too much about Speedmaster. It's come up as a joke sometimes on some of my live stream panels. I actually do not like the Speedmaster, the Moonwatch Speedmaster. I find it an extremely boring looking watch. And I like conservative looking watches by and large, but for whatever reason, the Speedmaster has never grabbed me. Like the 3-2-1 movement, I like the look of that. But every time I look at the dial of the Speedmaster, it never moves me, never. Now, some of the non-Moonwatch style Speedmasters I have found interesting, some of the racing ones. But the Moonwatch style, which I'm assuming is what the white dial will be in, it never resonates for me. So I've never been interested in that, but I know a lot of people, it's a true class. Kind of like how I like the Submariner so much. I know some people are like that with the Speedmaster. So anyway, if you wanted a white one, a white dialed one, purportedly that is coming this year. My other predictions are, this one is not a gamble. I feel very confident in it. We will see They put out an Olympic watch last year for this upcoming Olympics this year, I believe. I believe it's for this year's one, but there'll be at least 2 more Olympic watches. So if you want your Olympic watch, look, they ain't got no James Bond right now. Okay, we're still waiting for a new movie post Daniel Craig to happen. So what else are they going to lean into? Well, Omega leans into 3 things: James Bond, the moon, and the Olympics. So we're going to see Olympics. We're going to see at least 2 more Olympic watches. I doubt they're going to be particularly interesting to people. I mean, they'll be in major model lines. So Speedmaster, Seamaster, it'll be something like that. And maybe if you like the particular configuration, it might resonate for you. In fact, I think the one that already came out with us, I thought is Seamaster, but I'm not positive. I don't know. I wasn't interested in it. It was weird. It had like weird trims of their moonshine gold. It just, or said gold or something. It looked okay. It just looked a little odd to me. So I think that, and then my third item in the ticker that you're seeing, which is my snarky one, is there will continue to not be anything under 10 millimeters. Omega's got a thickness problem. I know I judge Longines a lot on that but with Longines, at least there's an excuse. Longines, given the price point that they're in, they have to rely on modules on top of regular movements. That's going to add thickness. Omega's watches are thick because they went coaxial. And this is going to be mean of me, but I'm going to be a little mean in my predictions. Omega seems to not give a care in the world to trying to figure out how to make that movement smaller at all. That's okay because their watches aren't overly thick in their sports watch lines. But when you start talking Constellations and DeVilles, it's weird to me. It's weird to me that, like what Neff mentioned, a thinner CK859, the CK859, was that a hand wind only watch? Their hand wind, I don't remember that one is or isn't, but I know it was over 10 millimeters. Their hand winds are over 10 millimeters thick. There's no excuse for it for a company this prestigious with this much money behind it that comes out with ultra chrono chime unit, fancy pants stuff. All they seem to care about is throwing in tons of complications on the ultra high end to flex and show how much better they are at watchmaking than Rolex. That's my take on that. And the other thing they like to do is make watches super duper thick so that they can dive even deeper because they're jealous of Rolex on that end. But in between, they're not competitive on thickness. And I find that fascinating given, especially in Asian markets, my understanding is they sell a lot of DeVilles and they sell a lot of Constellations. Any non-quartz, I don't even have to do a quartz non-quartz qualifier. Any watch that they make that is 36 millimeters or above, so we're going to use that as our loose definition of a men's-sized watch. Unisex, sure, but basically that. Most men are willing to possibly, depending on their wrist size, go to 36 millimeters. And once you go beneath that, they start to get uncomfortable. There's nothing in the current catalog, nothing that is under 10 millimeters. And the reason why I find that so interesting, as this is a case in point, I had a 39 millimeter Tudor 1926 Ebosh movement. They modify them slightly. Back then they were still branded as the Eddas. They might have been, but it's automatic, non-micro rotor. That's under 10 millimeters, guys. It's under 10 millimeters. So why is the CK859, which I have just now loaded up on their website, I'm loading up the features and the technical data, and the thickness of the 859 is 11.7 millimeters. A hand wind watch. As Neff has noted, this is a hand wind only movement that is almost 12 millimeters thick. There's no excuse. Well, there is an excuse. It's the coaxial movement is a fatty. But this tech is not new. So at this point, they should be able to get this shrunken down. Very attractive case. I actually tried that one or looked at that one at the shop when they were still making it. They might come out with a new one of those, but I don't think they come out with a thinner one. As my ticker prediction says, I don't think they can be bothered. I don't know. They've got this huge chip on their shoulder about Rolex. And so they have to show that they do fancier complications, which, yeah, no problem, because Rolex basically doesn't do complications. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, they like to make watches super dive depth, which is just making them thicker. But I just, again, because I have a bias towards dress watches, I just really wish they would try a little harder to make them thinner. Because I think they could, with any watch, even a sports watch, if you make them thinner, a lot more people are going to want to wear them. People don't like top heavy watches. So let me catch up on chat before we go to the next one. Scott says, Speedmaster and GP are not your favorites from what I gather. Yeah, well, but my Gerard Perigo bias solely comes from backpack flippers that tried to make him a thing. I don't have any sort of like visual. All right, the Laureato looks way too derivative of a Royal Oak to me to want most of the Laureatos, but GP actually does have other watch lines that are pretty attractive when I look at them, which is almost never because I've been poisoned against them. Poisoned, I tell you. Very, very sad. Tuna says that the Speedmaster has been done to death. Yeah, it has, but I mean, it's a huge moneymaker. I would speculate that Omega sells more Seamasters than anything, followed by Speedmasters, but I'm not sure. But regardless, it's iconic, and they'll always milk it. And I don't fault them for it. It's just as milkable as AP and their Royal Oak reliance. T looks T. Welcome to live stream, by the way. I don't think I said hi to you earlier. Will they make a smaller Tudor Ranger? Well, I started with so you can always go back to see my Tudor predictions, but I don't predict that they bring back any. I only predicted stuff for Pelagos and Black Bay. I don't think that the Ranger comes back, much less smaller. I don't think the Ranger made enough money for them. I think it was too. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of. I apologize. I was thinking of the North Flag, which was a really creative watch. Didn't really click for me. So Tudor Ranger, yeah, okay, that's their field watch that looks kind of like the Explorer 1. No, I don't think they come out with a new case this year. I don't think they discontinue the Ranger, but I don't think so. I don't know how well that one moves. That one's been really polarizing with collectors, which surprised me. One of my friends, who's Tony, who's been on some of the live streams in the past, he likes the Ranger a lot, but I know a lot of people have found it really, really boring. I thought it fit quite well with a field watch. I mean, field watches aren't exactly meant to be avant-garde, so I always thought they were supposed to be a little boring. I don't think they do anything with the Ranger. I think they just keep making the current size. Maybe eventually. Neff says, don't forget all the colored Aquaterras to have as many colors as Rolex too, and the gold Speedy. Look at Rolex for new Omega releases. Yeah, given when they came out, I had a feeling maybe they were developing their really colorful Aquaterras, and it just happened to be bad timing for them that the Stella dials from Rolex dropped. I actually like the Aquaterras more visually, other than the date windows. I didn't like the use of the date, but of course it's Omega. They date window like everything that's not in the Speedmaster line, which again I get because they sell them, because that's what people want, like the general public wants. But the big thing with those ATs when they came out, if you don't remember, they revealed those 2 Watches and Wonders ago. That was Watches and Wonders 2022. Those watches didn't hit shops in 2022. I went to our area Omega dealer. The time I got to see that the CK859. I was there to look at. Well, I was there because I couldn't get the bracelet link out of a Omega I bought off of Joma Shop because they Loctited it. I couldn't even break it with a hairdryer. I was trying to break that thing open. I was so embarrassed to do that. The first time ever since I got into collecting that I wasn't able to size my own bracelet was on that Omega, and I just couldn't get the screws to budge. I just couldn't do it. I was just like, I'm going to scratch this thing up to death. I'm just going to take it in and pay someone to do it. So, but it gave me an excuse to go and check out the watches. And I was like, I want to look at the Aquaterras. And they're like, we don't have any of them. And then I looked online. And this was like October of that year. So half a year after Watches and Wonders. They didn't get them. They didn't start getting them in until 2023. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Painful memory. I really like that saffron dial to this day, though. Scott says, I guess more money goes into marketing than research and development. Depends on the brand. In the case of Omega, probably. They do, but the thing is, like when they come out with those super fancy gold, chronographs that are able to like minute repeaters, but they chime the chronograph time instead of the hours. I mean, like they're pouring something into developing that a watch tech that only really wealthy people are going to buy. So they flex in some ways. But sizing down the coaxial movement to get the cases overall smaller. And maybe it's not just I don't know the motivation. I don't know if it's they don't want to figure it out, the millions of dollars it would take to resize the movements, or resizing the movements would also mean the need to resize all the cases. And that means making new cases. And maybe they're just kind of like, we're doing well enough. We're number 3 in Swiss sales. behind. I mean, they have fallen. I mean, ranking wise, Cartier passed them, but it's still a good position to be in. And maybe they're just kind of like, no, it's popular enough as it is. I just selfishly, I would like them to make them smaller. But as I note, there will be nothing under 10 millimeters out of that brand. And I didn't put this as a caveat, but I don't count quartz. So if they've got some lady AT quartz models that are under 10, I don't care. I'm only talking the mechanical stuff that's 36 millimeter and above. Underhay says, maybe they looked at the Rolex range on thickness too. It doesn't hurt their sales. No, but Rolex actually, basically anything Omega does, Rolex does thinner. So they're not super thin, but Rolex isn't turning out like a big old hand wound, not like the CK859. Actually, I know you're not seeing it because I'm not sharing the screen, but let me find out what their Rolex 1908 thickness is, because I don't remember off the top of my head what the 1908 is. In fact, I can share the screen. I just didn't turn it on earlier. So let me do that real quick. Share my Rolex. There you guys go. You should be able to, let me make my, I'm using a minimized window here. So I can see all my options, so I can make my brain, my head really small. Scroll. Yeah, let's just discover it. I don't care what the metal is. A lot of scrolling. All right. Did they say the thickness? They didn't, did they? I did all this effort and they didn't say it. This is why we can't have nice things, Rolex. Why don't you advertise your room? Rolex 1908 thickness. Okay. There you go. 9.5 millimeters. So they're under 10. And that's not a hand wind only. Here's your Omega CK859 at 11.7. So yeah, no, they can do it. T-Look says, just curious, a lot of the high-end brands sell their watches with either a strap or a bracelet. Historically, do strap versions sell as, I don't know what you were going to finish your comment with, T-Looks. The general rule of thumb from people would be, if you have the option, buy the bracelet version, because you can usually buy the strap. If you want the strap, it's usually more affordable to buy the strap later from the brand, if you need the brand strap, than trying to get the bracelet. So, but I would recommend it. That'd be my recommendation still, would be get it on the bracelet. Oh, here. Okay, let me see. Is there any data that the strap versions sell just as much as the bracelet ones? We don't normally get actually, I don't know of any brand that shows their figures of how much they sell bracelet versus strap. Some brands like Omega's NATO straps are extremely popular. The general recommendation is the watches sell for more on bracelet. So buying a bracelet, especially if you plan to get rid of the watch later, means you would have higher resale value simply because you've included the bracelet. And that's true across the spectrum, even with like Seiko, which is sort of renowned for having really junky bracelets. Like, honestly, I think the Seiko bracelet may be worse than the Orient bracelet, but it's not a great bracelet. But it still makes the watch more valuable than if you were to get the same watch on the strap version. Another thing to factor in, though, is because of that and the difficulty to get the bracelets and how sometimes they're sort of model specific, whereas straps are, okay, yeah, like this Parmesan, like when I bought this, this one was from Watchbox. So they put it on a new strap. So it's on an Hermes strap because Hermes is tied to the same holding company, same company owns Parmigiani, that owns the Movement Maker Vachu or Vasher or whatever the name of it is. And then Hermes owns stake in that. So anyway, bottom line is that they do the alligator straps, right? But strap wise, really, I can get any alligator strap and you wouldn't really, like, if you don't look at the back side of it, you're not going to know. I could get the same quality strap and just move the hardware over. Long story short being, there are lots of really great third-party strap makers. There are affordable ones. There are high-end ones. You can get custom leather straps. You can get straps that are better than a lot of the high-end brands are going to sell you. Yeah, this might be high-quality leather, but I probably could find a more affordable, better quality alligator strap from some other, and I mean, I don't know, Deluxe or what, I don't know. I don't know who does the best alligators out there, but there's so much there in strap territory that me as a watch consumer, I don't care as much. And I would just try and get the bracelet, because if I don't like the bracelet, I'll just go with a third-party strap. I've never felt compelled to get first-party straps. The one thing I like about straps is you don't have to size them like you do bracelets normally. I'm noting this one again because when I got this strap, those who were on at the start of the video, I did not perfectly centered because I'm terrible and my hand slipped. I only practiced on one strap beforehand with one hole, but I had to get a leather punch and punch my own hole on this because it didn't have enough holes, which was weird because it's a normal size strap. And normally they have the same number of holes across all brands. But for whatever reason, Hermes decides that you need 2 fewer holes, and everyone who wears their watches is going to have a big wrist. But my wrist is tiny. Itty bitty baby wrist. And yes, Ness, that was a very, very lucky guess of yours. So, and yes, Koji had acknowledged as well. Yeah, they were. It's under. So yeah, no, no. Rolex isn't known for like ultra thin watches. Don't get me wrong, but, and I'm not saying Omega's even known for ultra thick watches outside of their like, Planet Oceans and stuff, in which case they are extremely thick. Rolex does very wearable sports watches. It's not the same problem for them as it is for Longines. It's just, in my headspace, more embarrassing for them because it's Omega. Like, they've got all the money in the world. They're the crown jewel of the top of the pyramid in the Swatch Group might say Breguet, but we all know who wears the britches in that family, and it's Omega. They put all their eggs in the Omega basket, like all their effort. Like, Swatch, the brand, will come out with some collab thing that'll make them a bunch of money, sure. And they'll put a little bit of effort into Tissot because it targets people that don't want to spend over $1,000 on a watch. But when it comes to luxury watch space, the eggs are in the Omega basket. Speaking of eggs in a basket, let's go to Audemars Piguet and get this show continuing on the road here. Okay, so this one is mean, but I feel very confident in it. So as my ticker notes, I expect AP to continue to desperately flail about trying to make watches that are designed for youths, youthful, youngins, younglings, those that survived the great Jedi Purge. This AP doesn't know what they're doing, but they know what they're doing. I think they're very, very, very clear. So Koji has got it absolutely right. More RO collabs, please, AP. I meant that's implied in my line, but I didn't mean to spell it out, and I didn't. But yes, I think we see more collaborations with youth-oriented, like streetwear fashion designers, artists, be they musicians or possibly actors, but all targeting like more young adult age range, not true young adults. We're talking more 20 somethings, but so expect another Marvel themed watch. Expect another fashion person you've never heard. Hey, maybe we'll finally see the Rowing Blazers version of an AP. Maybe another rapper. Maybe John Mayer does an AP. Yeah, just expect those sort of things. All of them, every single one, will be on the architecture of the Royal Oak. They will. They aren't. They're not going to do this sort of stuff with code 1159. Will there be a new code 1159 and put it in the ticker? Yes. There'll be another, but it's not, whatever they come out with in the 1159 is not going to be as well received as the Star Wheel was in 2023. So it's not really going to matter. Their eggs are hopelessly in the Royal Oak basket. They cannot figure out a way around it. And the only thing they're trying to seem to do, in my view, is punch through it by making, in my headspace, maybe because I don't come from like this luxury wealth family, this ridiculous conundrum of very almost exceedingly youthful watches, like watches that I imagine would struggle to find an audience over the age of 30, but they are at prices where maybe only a 30-year-old could reasonably be expected to afford it. And that's only if they're rich. I mean, I've spent a lot on watches, a lot, but I don't have kids that I have to pay for. So I have, even with all of that, I don't look at Royal Oak money. Like imagining buying like a Marvel thing. If I was the ultimate Marvel fan, I would still never buy one. But I mean, will we see anything as cringe as 2023? Yeah, I think we will. I think we're going to see some really weird decisions. I think there may be more dead people in lawn chairs with watches dangling off their wrist. We may see more watches made thrown onto rusty barbed wire this year. I mean, anything to try and seem like they're hip and edgy. It's like, it's kind of like what you see out of Grand Seiko, but different. But no, don't worry, guys. I'm not throwing Grand Seiko totally under the bus. Grand Seiko's got some problems. I ain't got any predictions for them, but Grand Seiko, if you ever look at them when they talk about like every new dial that they do, and you saw like always all these nature themes, and they like, if you read the story behind the dial, it sounds like totally ridiculous, like inspired by the snow-kissed mountains, gazing out the northeast window of the factory, deep in the profit. It's like, no, it isn't. Like, it feels forced. It feels forced. Well, that's what it is with AP, except instead of forcing a story, they're forcing watch designs. And they're not all ugly, but a lot of them are. And they're like sacrificing function. They're sacrificing possibly form, depends. But it's so desperate. It's so desperate. And I think that desperation continues because it feels like they're shotgunning it, just desperately trying to find something that I think they have to offer amp off of just relying on Royal Oak looks. But the irony is they're building everything on a Royal Oak skeleton. So do they ever really get away from it? The cowardice out of AP amazes me. One could argue this is very bold of them, that they're being bold by trying to appeal to such a youthful audience that I can't even fathom most have the money to buy these things. But to me, it's cowardice. They're too scared to go and bring back old lines. They're too scared to try and come up with something new that doesn't look at all like the Royal Oak or the old line. They want to have their cake and eat it. And it's not working. And I really question how well AP is going to do in 2024 because AP, unlike a lot of the other brands we've talked about, they are very reliant on a boutique sales model. You don't get discounts with AP. You have to go and buy direct from the brand at their boutiques, by and large. And I don't think they're going to get the volume this year. And without the ability to get them on discount at a third, like AP, see, this is why Rolex, when we talked about the French deal with Rolex and the whole thing with their authorized dealer network, Rolex is so smart with using the distribution network. And this is why most watch brands do it. Because the moment they're done building the watches, they ship them and those ADs have to pay them. They don't care if the AD has to sell at a discount. That's the AD's problem. Rolex made its money the moment they made the shipment to the AD. AP doesn't have that. AP only gets the sale when the consumer buys because the boutiques are owned by AP. So they don't make money selling to the boutique. The boutique is AP. AP is the boutique. They have to have clients buy. And with the cooling off of not everyone needing a classic looking Royal Oak anymore and having to play this game, who's going to buy the Alex Royal Oak or the Spider-Man Royal Oak? I mean, some of them sell, some of them don't, but it's so sad. So sad. Let's see. T-Look says, and I know I need to scroll up my so many chats came in during my little rant there. I'll have to scroll back up and catch up on some, but what will the next Swatch collaboration be with Breguet? I haven't made a 2024 prediction. I do think there will be another collaboration this year. So Breguet would be, if they're going to keep doing the brand thing, Breguet would make the most sense, I think. I don't think they're going to do we have to do a new brand every year. I think they go back to Omega and they do a Seamaster inspired one. Won't be as big of a lift maybe because they've already figured out how to do 50 fathoms of water resistance for their Blancpain collab. So do a Seamaster. Easy money. They may go back to quartz for that. Seamasters were made in quartz, so it wouldn't be unusual. Neff says, AP will continue making keychains for dead girls and plastic chairs. As harsh as everything I said, but I stand behind about AP, I am very much looking forward to the promotional campaigns for all of these watches because AP brings a smile to my face like no other brand, not because of its beauty, but because of its horror. And I do very much look forward to it. Tuna notes, very few youths can actually afford an AP. That's why I find the strategy absolutely asinine. I just don't understand it. I don't. And in a way, the comic stuff is actually the most logical because comics have had such a long run. There are adults who very much love comics and very much have the means to go ahead and buy hand sculpted out of white gold Spider-Man with a tourbillon in it. Like, there is a market there. That, like, the Alex Dead Girl lawn chair line of watches that you can't even read the time on. I mean, some older adults, I'm sure, will buy those. But, like, I look at that and I'm like, why would I ever get something dripping in yellow gold that you can't even read the time on? You might as well get a day date, which has some pedigree to it and some history. Or in my case, like, what my grail would honestly be, talking all gold, would be the 222, the Vacheron 222, a very attractive watch. Yeah, very 70s looking. Kish, sure, but I can read the time with it. So I don't know why I'd buy a watch I can't tell the time on, especially a chronograph that you can't even tell the chronograph time on. But y'all are derailing me into ranting about that watch specifically, and we got to move past that. We're in 2024. Koji says it must come with box papers and plastic lawn chair. They honestly, I would have respected AP a lot if they had leaned into that after that. They launched those photos and they were like, you will get the lawn chair with every watch purchase. They have them at the boutique just stacked up in the corner. They just hand them to you. Scott says, AP seems like a high price point for gimmicks and pieces that may not be timeless in design. Again, that's why it reeks of desperation. Why else do it? They seem very desperate. Neff says, if you go to Japan and see a man staring at a tree, don't worry. He's not insane. He's just designs dials for Grand Seiko. That's good. I'm glad they're out there getting their inspiration. I just don't know how many more tree types there are in Japan to inspire different bark versions of their watches. I'll go ahead and throw it out here right now. I don't have Grand Seiko in the ticker list. My problem with Grand Seiko, I actually like Grand Seiko a lot. The problem is Grand Seiko seems to, I think it might have been on a Blog to Watches podcast, probably was. It seems like something Ariel would say. But here's the thing with Grand Seiko that I think is the problem that they have with so many watch collectors. Grand Seiko comes into it with this kind of what I think a lot of people would stereotype as the industrial manufacturing perspective of Japan, which would make sense because it's a Japanese brand. But when you look, the problem is you see all these different dial textures and colors, but the watches all look the same. The power reserves are always in the same place. The hands are the same. Some of this is the grammar of design that they rely on, especially in the Heritage line and stuff from Grand Seiko. But look deeper than that. Look at where everything is placed. Look at the same thicknesses, and that's another brand with a lot of thick watches. Thicknesses and the lug to lugs. They so desperately want to be industrial. Use the same cases over and over and over. And I feel versus the Swiss brands, which again, look at Rolex. You knew like 39 millimeter was going away when they started moving everything else into other sizes. Absolutely. But they have multiple sizes. Grand Seiko so much wants to just do once. It seems like they just want to have one watch bracelet and one watch case and one watch set of hands, and they just want to change the colors around. That's the problem that they have, because it's starting to feel very, very samey. And having really impressive polishing and really nice textures on dials may do wonders to sell one to one person. But how many people want to, I don't know. I know plenty of people who collect Seikos. I don't know people who collect Grand Seikos. Could you imagine a 12-seater watch box of Grand Seikos, like 2 rows, and just how samey they're going to look? Unless you get really desperate and start trying to buy the sports watch versions, which I think just look weird, but at least they look different. So I give them credit for that. That's what I think the problem is with Grand Seiko. It's just, it looks too assembly line, because they're not varying the look enough of the components on the dials. The dials are great, but you can't hide behind just the dial. But that's just my take. I used to have a Grand Seiko. I liked it quite a bit. Except the bracelet. Bracelet was total trash. Okay. Koji says, to defend Grand Seiko, it may seem pretentious to us, but is a bit aligned with the Japanese ethos and relationship with nature. Sure, I think the storytelling is coming on overly heavy-handed. And so there's a fakeness to it. And the closest analogy I could give you, which I feel even more assured about its cheapness of, because, again, there isn't that ethos and relationship like there is in Japan, is when we saw the Moonshine Gold seconds hand moon swatches out of Swatch, and they were explaining how these are made under the full moon. And I mean, holy crap, what a bunch of BS. Now, I'm not saying they're not actually manufacturing them only on the day of the full moon. I'm just saying that the whole story behind it is it's what do the kids call it today? What do the kids in the dead lawn chairs call it? Cringe. Super cringe. That whole moonshine gold thing. Oh my, so tacky. No one cares. It sounds, talk about pretentious. Underhay says, I agree. If I spent that much, it would be classic design that will look good in 20 years. 20 years plus. To some, it is just loose change, though. I hear about these people with the loose change who buy these things. I don't know who they are, though. Ken says, AP is supposed to be catering to the future, but I don't see Patek fans dying anytime soon. Very risky. Michael Jordan said it best. Republicans buy sneakers, too. Oh, I forgot about that line from him. But yeah, it's I think, and we'll touch on that with Patek. AP should be looking to the future. Absolutely. I think it's kind of like a pendulum, and they've gone way off on the extreme. They're just too far over. You like, don't want to be too far left or right. Like, avant-garde is great, but this is a business. That is a business. They need to be selling watches. Need to be selling. Neff says, my ID has a Winter Inn, and that is a very good looking watch. And Pretu says, Ed Sheeran and John Mayer are buying the Spider-Man APs. Oh, well, yeah. I know athletes who have been spotted with like the Black Panther ones on wrist, and actors as well. If AP can survive just selling watches to entertainment elites, okay. But I don't know how much longer we're going to talk about them in that case. It's not very inspiring in my view. But again, I just have my one perspective. We all have our own perspectives. Speaking of perspectives, you know who also has perspectives? The Germans have perspectives. We haven't been talking about the Germans today. We've really, I made a slight mention in regards to watch strap design and remembering to put in the proper number of holes, Parmigiani, or Hermes. I need to blame Hermes. Parmigiani didn't make the strap. But, looking over at Lange. So A. Lange & Söhne, the crown jewel of the German watchmaking industry. Are they going to do something clever? They usually do one clever thing a year and then do a variety of dial changes other than that, which I expect more of. So what's my prediction? I think they are going to do something new with the Odysseus. I don't know if it's going to be something as mind-blowing as, if you remember, and you can go to Watches and Wonders, just search for Watches and Wonders on Google. You can still load the 2023 Watches and Wonders. You can go check out the video of the Odysseus that they unveiled there and how cool it was on the reset feature and stuff. I don't think they're going to have something like to that level, but I think they take that watch as a template and they add another complication to it. Something. I don't know what. You want to say tourbillon? You want to say they add some sort of like perpetual calendar aspect or annual calendar aspect? Yeah, I don't know. Just something. They're going to stick something. Something that will be impressive, mechanically impressive. Also wouldn't be surprised if in honor of that, they do something. It will, if they do that, it will almost assuredly be in a different dial color than last year's Odysseus. They might do a new metal as well. They're pretty, Lange is pretty fond of mixing around metals. If nothing else, possibly even doing like a reformulation and get a little bit. They don't get particularly weird, but they tend to like to do a lot in rose gold. They bring out the platinum and white gold for some things. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with them. So I think whatever it is will be really cool. It'll also be really, really expensive, but you'll be able to tell the time with it, unlike with an AP. So it'll have that going for them. Neff says, my prediction is Moritz Grossman is going to continue making the best watches in Germany. Well, Neff, your prediction may be right, but my prediction is no one will care. So, yeah, you have to deal with the Lange. Speaking of dealing with it, IWC. Okay. Now, IWC here in 2023, they did a few things. And there's other stuff I almost add to the ticker. Like, I bet there'll be more kind of Top Gun-esque pilot chronos and stuff like they always do. They're going to have some stuff. They're going to have some stuff that's going to be approachable and you might very well want to buy. The prediction is going to be on the Ingenieur. Ingenieur had a ton of buzz. When it came out, the general consensus, if I were to distill it down, was interesting look, way too expensive. I don't think they can bring themselves to lower the price on it, especially because of what that will do to everyone who did buy an Ingenieur. So I don't think we see a price drop. But what I do think is they're going to, I mean, they got this thing figured out. I actually like how the new Ingenieurs look a lot. I like the look of new ones more than the old ones. So what I think they end up doing is they hold the price the same. Maybe they do. I mean, they had like a titanium and a steel one. Maybe they do a new metal, or in my case, as you see in the production, I'm actually going to say I think they do a ceramic one, and not actual metal, but a new case. So I think they do a ceramic one. Maybe keep it priced around, like because the titanium ones are more than the steel ones. I think they keep the pricing, roughly the same. I don't think they raise the price on the steel ones. And they see if that kind of gets like, oh, it's ceramic, now it's worth the price. And see if that maybe motivates people. Some different dial colors will probably come into play as well on both the new case material and the older ones. I think they're going to try, and I think they've spent too much effort developing this. They're going to try and get more people to like it. And I think the way they're going to try and do it is just to put more variety into the new Eigener catalog. I think that's really the only strategy. Ken says Eigener will be half price secondary. I agree. I think all of these changes do nothing to shift that, but they just need to find more people to buy them firsthand. So I think that's what they'll try and do. I think they're going to be like, we got to double, triple, quadruple down on the Eigener. Too much effort went into making the new design. They can't let it go. Not yet, at least. They're going to try harder. Try harder without lowering the price. Neff says, if IWC doesn't lower the price, then they will need to pump the value up. What an overpriced watch. And that's why when I was thinking about cases, you could say, all right, well, maybe they could do them in precious metal. Sure, but a lot of people don't want to buy gold watches because they're worried about scratching them so easily. Ceramic, though. A lot of people go gaga over ceramic. I feel like a lot of watch collectors still don't understand that ceramic is not exactly an expensive thing to do, but it's new. So it feels okay. I haven't done any pinball comparisons today on this stream. I'm finally going to do one. It's like in pinball. We have a lot of pinball collectors who still think like color changing RGB is like some fancy tech and it's an expensive bulb when neither thing is true. And so they kind of go gaga over the ability to have color changing RGBs. Just like, I guess they're like children and bright colors distract them. Well, with watch collectors, we're the same way. Ceramic distracts us. We're impressed by the innovation of ceramic. Even though Rado's cranking out affordable luxury, but affordable ceramic watches for years now. So ceramic is not special in any way, but to people, they'll think it's better than steel and they'll skew upwards because of it. So they might feel there's a better value proposition if there was a ceramic and it was available at near the same price as a steel watch. But that's just my guess. Andre says, maybe IWC should make a plastic Eigener for $250. Well, if they were in the Swatch group, that would have definitely been an IWC collab with Swatch would have been my pick, but they're not. So we can't go that route. All right, we're almost done. I only have 4 more, I think. Chopard. I always forget, is it Chopard or Chopard? I think it's Chopard. So Chopard. Someone very, very early in the stream mentioned the as a recommendation to me for a micro rotor watch, the 1860 LUC, lucent steel, salmon dial. My favorite watch of Watches and Wonders in 2023 aesthetically. And I have heard as recently as a couple of weeks ago, massive wait lists for that watch because Chopard is only planned to, I think they said they were only expecting to make 200 in 2023. Like it's a 200 unit a year watch. So, what do I think? Chopard realizes, like how AP wishes they could realize, they've landed on something here. This is Chopard's Parmigiani Tonda PF, the LUC 1860. The fascinating thing is they found it in a dress watch. So what did we do? All right, you want to keep this excitement, wait list going on here. Lucent steel salmon dial, still the 200 unit a year thing, but start chop hacking this and doing different dial colors and different metals. So I think we see colors other than salmon. I think salmon just stays with the lucent steel. I think we see a new one, at least one new one this year, different dial color, not lucent steel, gold, probably white gold, but gold, maybe multiple of gold. And they can try, and in fact, price-wise, might be around the same price. The LUC and lucent steel 1860 is like priced around $25,000. They could actually make the gold one a little bit less, and try and say that lucent steel is the value add. But people who want the dress watch and are okay with gold have an option that isn't that one that isn't as hard to get. So that's what I think they do. I'm getting really, really specific, but the bottom line is I think there will be another 1860. Maybe it's another lucent steel one and it's just a different dial color. I don't know. But there was too much excitement about that watch design to let that languish as just one watch. They got to do more 1860s. So, and I think they're going to be ready to do it here in 20, especially changing case material and dial color. They can do that in a year. It doesn't take a bunch of research. Scott says, Chopard. To be pretentious, you can't pronounce the D. That used to be my joke with French words. The secret to saying anything in French is look at the entire word and drop 1/3 to 1/2 of the letters, and that's how the word is said. I don't know if that's true or not. It's probably not. That's what I always thought. Neff says, I'm looking at used Chopards right now on Chrono 24. I found an older 1860 for 7K. I have looked at a lot of older LUCs, just not the 1860s specifically, just LUC Chopards in general. There are so much available under $10,000, guys. So if you're wearing a dress watch, and I almost, instead of going Parmigiani, I almost went with a Chopard. I was going to actually do a poll, but it felt pretentious about pick which dress watch I'm going to get. And I was going to have Chopard in the list. I was going to have Breguet in the list. I was going to have Parmigiani in the list. I was going to have Vacheron in the list, and then I think I could do 5 and then let people vote. And I thought Chopard might have a really strong rank because everyone knows I love that 1860 so much. But they actually have a lot of really nice dress watches. Also, some going off on an aside, but if you like the Calatrava, I mentioned some other brands with Calatrava-esque watches. I did not earlier mention Chopard. They have some that kind of look in that spirit of that quasi Bauhaus look. So, and they're some of the cheapest. So, and Neff notes in yellow gold. Yep, another thing. Yeah, yellow gold. Chopard did a lot in yellow gold. Frank says, I like your pinball references, even though I haven't played in 40 years. Well, I usually have a few in because I do more content creation in pinball than I do in watches, quite frankly. But we're running a little long, so I'm going to go ahead, and we've only got 3 left to go. So let's do the big boy. Vacheron's not going to be on the list, guys. You're lucky I mentioned it at all in anything. I have no predictions for Vacheron. Patek I do. So Patek is also, as we kind of discussed earlier in regards to one of Ken's comments, they are really trying to grab a more youthful audience as well. Unlike AP, I don't feel like they're swinging too far on the pendulum, though. Granted, the 6007G Calatrava line, those are those sporty ones that came out. I know a lot of collectors don't like them. I actually thought they looked okay. I didn't like that they had the 3 o'clock date. I thought it broke up what otherwise would have been a tighter, sportier look. But, I know functionally. Well, anyway, we're not going to whine about date windows and stuff. They're trying. And I think they're going to keep trying to do that. So I think they're not done with attempting on that line. I think we're going to see another 6007G, at least one new dial design this year. Might look more, might not just be like a color palette swap, though. Might be a little more radically different, but still very much in the vein of trying to be more youthful looking, not the quasi Bauhaus of the 1930s that a lot of Calatravas are. It's going to be its own thing. I think they're going to experiment with that. It's going to be more conservative experimenting, but I don't think that's going to be a hit for them, quite frankly. But I do think that they might find a niche for it. So I think they're going to still experiment on that. I also think we're going to see some new version of a perpetual calendar. And by new version, I just mean a dial. I don't think they're going to come out with a new movement for a perpetual calendar this year. I just think we're going to see another look to one of their grand complication perpetual calendars. And collectors broadly will all praise it, and it will all start at retail over 100,000. So none of us will buy it, but we'll like it. It will be handsome and well finished, and everything that Patek is known to be. So those are my Patek predictions there. Penultimate one, Oris. Let's talk Oris a little bit, right? Independent Swiss brand. Gets a lot of attention from collectors because the pieces are relatively affordable. They're more on the entry end. So let's see. Whether in 2023, the big thing was they got a lot of attention with their Kermit Pro Pilot X. I do think we see another Pro Pilot X. I do think we see it at Watches and Wonders. I do think it's going to be a bold color, but I don't think it's going to be a collab this time. The first run of Pro Pilot X's in the Kermit format were all very, and I should have worn mine today, all very conservative, very dull looking ones. Like I have one, a gray dial one. They have a very subdued blue dial one, and they had a very subdued pink dial one. I think we see something more extreme, maybe a yellow, maybe an orange, something a little more fun but I don't think it's going to be collaborative themed. And I think it will be priced at, Kermit goes a little bit more than the other ProPilot X's. I think this one will be priced at whatever the baseline ProPilot X's are. So I think that we'll see that. I also think they're going to want to lean more into their Big Crown. They've done Big Crown pointer dates for a really long time. They now have their Big Crown line that uses their in-house movement. I think we see a new case material for that. Now, they may have already done bronze. They might do ceramic. I'm thinking. So anyway, not a precious metal, but I think they're going to do something. Honestly, I think with the Big Crowns, they could get away with doing precious metal. I think it's a relatively elegant looking line. Granted, most of the ones I think of with the new movement are a little more sporty. They don't do the cathedral hand look, which I actually like the sporty look on. I don't like cathedral hand though. So, but I think we will see a case material change up with them for the Big Crown specifically. So I got a couple. It's a new ProPilot X. I think they're finding success or want to find success with it. That's their titanium integrated. Well, yeah, kind of. Not. I don't know if that's considered an integrated sports watch. I sure never thought of it that way. Anyway, it's their titanium watch line. Let's put it that way. And the Big Crown is Big Crown, one of their most successful lines. And during the year, I'm sure they'll have an Aquas and stuff, but I didn't feel like predicting what weird Aquas they're going to do. Neff says, I'd love to see Oris do an adventuring dial in the ProPilot X. You know what? I had not contemplated them trying to do adventuring. That would be interesting. If they were to do it, I think they would do it in the Big Crown first, because I think they would find it attractive with the pointer date format. Oris did do a rainbow titanium dial PRX just before Christmas. Yes, they did. But I think they ain't done yet. The PRX is getting more. All right. Last brand, Tag. Okay. Yeah, you all probably saw the news. The guy, LVMH is elevating the guy who's the son who's been running Tag Heuer for the last few years to being the head of all the watch divisions under LVMH. I don't think that changes much here for Tag in 2024. I am just going to say I think we get a new Mario watch. We didn't really have one in 2023, did we? It was 2021 when we had the Super Mario smartwatch, and then it was, I think, 2022 where they came out with the what's that? The chrono line that they do that is usually quartz, the cheaper chronograph line. They did that. They did a Mario watch. I don't remember the name of it. Anyway, they did Mario watch there. Maybe it's finally time to have a Mario Carrera or Mario Monaco, something more in their more luxury space. But I think they're going to do another Mario collab. So that will be my prediction with Tag Heuer. And that's it. Those are all the brands I bothered to come up with predictions on. We're out of time. So if anyone wants to suggest predictions that they've got, go ahead and leave a comment on the recorded version of the video, and I will go and I will read those. And that's pretty much it. I should hopefully before next week's live stream, I will be back next Saturday for another live stream. I should have a review on this Parmigiani Fleurier Calpatonda before then. So if you're interested in that, or you just want some close-up 4K video, it's the only time I shoot 4K are the reviews anymore. The StreamYard's already 720p, and my other videos I usually do 1080 because I hate waiting for things to render, and I think most people don't really care. But when it comes to close-up watch porn, that's when we go ahead and we get out the 4K. But until next time, I will talk to you all next Saturday, those of you who can make it at least. Until then, have a great weekend. Take care.